All right, little off day. We get to, take a step back, take a breather. How are we feeling now? Plus, Daulton Varsho might be coming back. Also, what are we doing with this fifth rotation spot? We got to figure it out. Who's going to fill that void? Will it be a bullpen? We're going to break it all down today. Plus, set up the series against the Yankees. So stay tuned.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube with the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well, on our main one, at Locked On Jays. Make sure you guys go follow us on there as well. We have an Instagram and a TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you guys do go and head over to the YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Helps us out a ton. Keeps us top of your page. You guys get your shorts, your live streams, your podcasts, your videos, all there on YouTube. Plus, for those of you that do follow us on the Instagram or the Twitter accounts, and obviously the YouTube, when we go live, we will now be live on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So there you go. We're covering all the bases. We got that all figured out. So hopefully we get a bunch of you guys listening on different platforms. We can see all the comments coming in on everywhere. So that's nice to have. So if anything big happens, anything crazy, we will go live. Obviously around the trade deadline, off-season stuff, all of that. It's going to be a nice little help. So make sure you guys do go follow us on all the platforms. A lot to get into today, Carter, but coming off an off day, right? It was a nice breather for sure. I had time to shave and, have a nap and watch some Jets hockey, I guess. I didn't do a whole lot with the off day. I had to work, didn't really get out and go do a whole lot. But you and Jar, you guys went golfing. How'd that go?
Oh, it was pretty solid. Just nice, obviously, be back out on the course. But it just made me realize that I said it on the yesterday's podcast. I'm like, we really need this off day after this brand of baseball that we had to watch over the last 3 games. Honestly, over the last 5 games, 5-game losing streak. I needed a break from the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, I got out on the golf course, still got the polo on right now. And I felt a lot more refreshed and just a lot more at ease than obviously I did yesterday. And for good reason. Like, I'm thinking about it, and that was horrific to watch. Like, that hasn't changed. One of the worst stretches of baseball that I've ever seen, honestly. I think we've ever seen on this podcast, to be honest. Like, you have a franchise record of the least amount of hits you've ever gotten as an organization. So I don't think we downplayed that whatsoever. I think that rant was absolutely needed. I think we need to get that off our chest. I think the people listening need to get their thoughts and ideas off their chest as well. They were probably talking along with us and complaining just as much as we were going off on that podcast. So I think everyone just kind of needed a little bit of a therapy session, need to get out all the negative emotions, because we did it. We are able to take that step back. At the end of the day, it's 5 games in 162. If Anthony Santander keeps his pace, he's going to hit like 10 home runs this season. That's going to be so much lower than his career lows. Same with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., same with Bichette. Like, if this continues on, then the Blue Jays are having the worst offensive season ever in the MLB. And I don't think that is going to happen whatsoever. There's too much talent on this baseball team for this to continue. So obviously very bad slew of games that we just had there. But I think I got a lot of that negative energy out. Again, I still am a little bit hostile going into a New York Yankees series because it doesn't get a whole lot easier. But I do feel a whole lot better, at least mentally, than I did yesterday. I think the off day definitely helped out with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, coming off of the day that we had on the pod yesterday, we were pretty fired up. And I don't love to do that because, how many times a year can you get fired up? And if you're coming on here, a podcast that we do every day and are angry the whole time, it doesn't make for a great listening experience, I'm sure. But some days it gets to that point where you sort of bubble over. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't feel better about that series or the 5 games that were played. But yeah, it's definitely like chilled out for sure with the off day. And that's why I said I think the off day was massive. You asked me, I think it was 2 days ago, is this a must-win game? And I said no, but it's an important one. I don't think it's must-win because of the off day. And I think hopefully it resets some of the players. I know it resets some of, me and you. Hopefully it resets some of the fan base of going into the Yanks series. Hopefully this team can turn over a new leaf. That's something I'll be watching for sure. But we do have a lot to talk about, Carter. We don't get off days too often. So when you do, you want to take full advantage on the topics that we need to cover here because, some days there's games and then there's stuff to recap and there's things that go on in the game that, we go on tangents like we do. So let's dive into a couple things. Obviously, we want to talk Daulton Varsho. We want to talk the fifth starter. We want to talk what this lineup looks like and a series preview. So we got to, try to get that all in one episode here for you guys going into the weekend. But Carter, I guess where do you want to start here? Because we do have a lot of options.
I want to start by saying that just because our demeanor has changed doesn't mean everything is still all sunshine and rainbows. There are still some problems on this team.
Right.
We're going to talk about some of the problems on this team and some ways that we think that this team can change some things to obviously have a better outlook for the rest of the season. I think where I want to start this is I want to talk about this fifth starting spot. I want to talk about the fifth starter in this rotation because when we talked last time, I think we still were going to give Easton Lucas one more chance. I think the leash was at an all-time low, obviously. And you're not going to, again, if he gets blown up in even the first inning, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have any single out. I think you got to take him out. But obviously, the Blue Jays kind of made that decision for us. Easton Lucas got sent back down to AAA. Josh Walker gets sent to the Major League Club. So obviously, what that means is that it seems like the Toronto Blue Jays are going to run with a four-man rotation. And for that fifth day, they are going to roll with the bullpen day. I think right now what this is going to lean towards is that, especially with this off day, I think they're going to capitalize on off days. They're going to make use of these off days, and they're not going to have that bullpen day if they don't necessarily need to have it. I think right now you still have that five-man rotation. Obviously, you'd have Kevin Gausman through Bound Francis for the 4 days. Then you have that off day that still gives them 5 days rest between starts. But doing that, obviously, early on in the season does have some problems. There are some concerns there. So I don't know if this can be a long-term fix until, if you're going to wait until Alek Manoah comes back to, only have a four-man rotation, that is going to put a lot of pressure on a lot of these arms, whether it's from the bullpen or the starting rotation. I think long-term, you can't necessarily do that. But just overall, what do you think the Toronto Blue Jays should do with this fifth rotation spot? Should it be a starting pitcher? Should they do a bullpen day? Are you okay with that? Just overall, your thoughts on this starting rotation.
The problem with me answering this question right now is I don't know where Max Scherzer is in his recovery or how close he is to being back, if he even is coming back. Right now, with looking at the information we're given, is that he went for a second cortisol shot for the thumb. And to me, that makes it seem like he's reacting well to the cortisone shots and he should be back soon enough. So if this is one more start or two more starts, bullpen day all the way. I'm a big fan of that. I think with this bullpen, you have a little bit of trust there. So I'm okay with doing that. It's obviously not the most ideal situation, but either that or you throw a starter out from AAA that's going to get absolutely shelled and it's a throwaway game anyway. I think you like giving that to the bullpen and utilizing the off days, like you said. I mean, again, the Blue Jays have a 3-game series against the Yankees, and then you get another off day. So let the guys rest up, and hopefully, these guys can be ready to rock again. So I think that is the right move. I just, like you said, long term, what are we talking about here? And it all relies on Max Scherzer. What is he going to be? Because are we just I don't really understand where some fan bases are at, or where this fan base is at, talking about, well, if this is going to happen to Alek Manoah. No. Are we? You can't accept that Max Scherzer is going to be gone till Alek Manoah gets back. He's going to come back. Is it going to be in 2 games? I don't know. Is it going to be in 6 games? I don't know. Is it going to be in 2 months? I have no idea. But with the timetable that we're given, I think it's closer than people are estimating anyway.
See, I don't know how I'm feeling about that, honestly, because this is something that has hampered Max Scherzer from last season. You think, well, you said that with the cortisone shots, you think he is responding well to that. Why would you need a second one? I know it's been a little of a while, and you do normally take multiple cortisone shots, but this guy might be the most drugged up human being of all time, with the Toronto Blue Jays right now.
Well, so just a little clarification. So people with that get their knees replaced or have knee problems, they go for cortisol shots. My dad goes for cortisol shots every couple weeks so that he can continue to curl. So this is a very regular thing that happens to everyday people so that they can live their lives normally without the constant pain. And so for Max Scherzer, this will allow him to it's just a little bit of a pain relief. It's not like you're doped up on anything. It's literally just to relieve pain in the specific area. So I think as long as it's working for him and it's not affecting his shoulder or his elbow, I think it's fine.
See, for me, like, no offense to your dad, but your dad's day to day and Max Scherzer's day to day are definitely a lot different. He's taking cortisol shots to curl, and like Max Scherzer is trying to pitch and be an athlete for a Major League Baseball team. So I know it's you're doing it for the same reason, like it's a pain reliever, but
Yeah.
this whole thing with like the previous history of these injuries and just how long this has been going on for. I
So
don't
are you saying that you're accepting that Max Scherzer is not going to pitch again this season?
No, that's
I-
not at all what I'm saying. I just think that the timetable is going to be a lot longer than people are thinking already. Because we are initially, this was only supposed to be like a 1 or 2 start thing. Now we're what, on 4 starts, three starts, maybe we're going on the fourth one. I just don't see a timetable, and we're seeing the cortisol shots being like he is taking them, but we're not really seeing Max Scherzer progress and throwing all that much. He's throwing side sessions, but there's not a lot of positive information coming out on Max Scherzer. So
Yeah.
kind
So
of, okay, I'll give
sorry.
it back to you. Back to you
Sorry.
here.
Just on the cortisol shot thing. So this has to be taken every so many weeks. So it doesn't matter how a guy's progression is going. The first dose is to see how a player responds to a cortisol shot and to see if it works and if they can throw. Then you have to continually go on a cortisol shot from there to keep the pain at a minimum or to keep reducing the pain. So it's not like, oh, he's going to just stop taking it because it's going to feel better. No, he's probably going to have to the rest of the season continue to take cortisol shots. So we'll hear about a third and we'll hear about a fourth and we'll hear about a fifth. And that's just is what it is for as long as maybe Max Scherzer either gets the break in the offseason and figures it out, or and for however long he wants to pitch again. And so that's what the cortisol shot is. So again, timetable is a little bit inaccurate right now. And it just to see how he does. But him being on a second cortisol shot doesn't mean he's that much closer or that much further away from getting back on the mound.
See, where I'm at with this again is you don't think he was taking these cortisol shots last year. You don't think this is something, again, it's such a regular pain reliever. You don't think this is something they've considered. And it's still, again, this is still a problem coming from last season. There's been some other injuries that Max Scherzer has said that have been linked to these kind of things. Again, you have a thumb injury, and then all of a sudden, the other things start hurting his body. He said the reason that he removed himself from that baseball game is because he felt that if he kept pitching with that thumb injury, he was going to have a massive injury. So I just think like the reason he's taking these cortisol shots is clearly because he's still in pain. So again, he's going to have to continue to take these cortisol shots. And I just don't know if you can really rely on Max Scherzer, at least in the short term. I think you have to expect him to, pitch at some point in the season once again. But I'm not liking this whole situation with Max Scherzer and how the timeline is getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Like where I'm at right now with Max Scherzer, I don't think he's going to pitch in May. I think it's going to take until at least June for this guy to come back. So can you roll with a bullpen day every fifth day up until then? Well, luckily for the Toronto Blue Jays, they do have a lot of off days coming up. May 5th, they have an off day. Pretty much every Monday in May, they do have an off day. So that does make things a lot easier, obviously, with the starting rotation management. But obviously, within that week, 6 games, that doesn't really worked out too well for that 4-man rotation. So they're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error, obviously, with this. And I think a lot of this does stem from, hey, when is Max Scherzer going to make his return? When did the Blue Jays think he's going to be back on the mound? So if it's within 2 weeks, it's the most obvious. Yeah, you roll out the bullpen day. You don't not even worry about the bullpen taxation because you have 2 days. You still have the off days incorporated as well. So I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. This becomes more of a problem if Max Scherzer is out for that full month, is out for an extended period of time. Again, we're hoping that it is going to be sooner than later, but just with everything considered with Max Scherzer, with the age, with the injury history, with just all the cortisol shots, with all the pain that we have heard from Max Scherzer, I just don't necessarily think, and for sure in the short term, this is a guy that you can rely on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily know how reliable he'll be, but I also think that I don't know if this organization makes this move to commit to a 4-man rotation and a bullpen day. If he's not somewhat close. I don't know that you can realistically ride this out. So I think there has to be a little bit of hope that he's close because otherwise you cannot commit to doing this the rest of the season until Alek Manoah gets back. That is an absolute no-go. So you bring up somebody else from AAA and you give guys shots if that's the case and Max Scherzer is far away or an unclear timetable. So to me, this leans to the fact that maybe he is close or there is optimism about a soon-to-be start. Again, unclear timetable, but to me, this is just a very, very bad move if it is the case that Max Scherzer's not going to pitch it for another month and a half.
Yeah, think the feeling around Max Scherzer is that he is going to come back sooner. I was just, with my opinion and my personal opinion on Max Scherzer, is that they think it's going to happen like this, but I think that we've seen this kind of story before, and I think the timetable, people think it, like the management is thinking it's going to be a lot sooner than it's actually going to be for 40-year-old Max Scherzer. So again, with the bullpen day, whether it's Josh Walker, whether it's Yariel Rodriguez that you do stretch out, I rather go with that bullpen day, especially in the short term, rather than, again, I've talked about some podcasts before, like Jake Bloss. He did have a good start his last time out, but we've seen what happens when the Houston Astros rushed him to the major leagues. He went straight from Double-A to the major leagues, didn't have a very good stint with the Houston Astros, and we know how big confidence is in young players. So again, you do have some other options. They're not very good. You have like Eric Lauer is really the only other guy that I could see them kind of going to in this situation. So I think right now we're going to see this bullpen day obviously occur, and then you just got to hope that Max Scherzer can make his return. But even if Max Scherzer does make his return, I guess I'm just at the point now. You're a 40-year-old. You have injuries in the midseason. Is this a guy that is he going to go out and pitch 5 innings? He's going to go out and pitch 3 innings. He's going to go out. You're not going to get 6, 7 from him, I don't think, at this point. So I think even if you get Max Scherzer back at some sort of capacity, that's definitely going to help you. So him pitching even 3 innings is better than nothing. But we're going to have to see how this timetable does pan out. But obviously, there is still some issues with this offense. And we do have a slugger coming back, a guy that hopefully can instill some power into this lineup. Daulton Varsho has looked very good in AAA. So a bunch more that we do want to get into. Possible lineup situations. How does Daulton Varsho affect this offense? So much more that we want to talk about. And it's all coming at you guys coming up.
Today's episode brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into games like EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed. As easy as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV Stick. I didn't even know this was an option. That's insane to me. That's crazy. You literally don't need a console. I'm all in. I'm for it. You know what? Wasn't an Xbox guy. If I don't need a console, you might be swaying me. That's sort of awesome. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscriptions and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and the Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. So, Carter, we got a lot to talk about, like you said, and continuing on here as we continue to yap. And, as soon as we get into a little argument, it's like 10 minutes later. So, or a disagreement, we, like to snap it around. So, but I feel like there will be very minimal chance of argument here. Daulton Varsho should be back very soon. And I could not be more happy because you've seen him smoke balls in spring training in AAA. You see him make a diving catch just the other day, Carter, in the outfield. This guy looks all the way back, and for him to be diving in the outfield, I'm like, get him up here. He's ready. We, even in the off chance that his bat is still hot from spring training, get this guy into this lineup ASAP.
Well, yeah, it was funny actually before the podcast. You're like, Daulton Varsho is probably going to be ready for New York. I'm like, just take a look at this. You just see him sprawl out, make a diving catch, no regard for his body whatsoever. He looks like he's good to go. And we see the bat obviously in AAA. He's hitting the ball hard. There's AAA pitchers. I'm not going to take obviously too much from that. But the way the offense has been recently, like it cannot hurt whatsoever to have Daulton Varsho in this lineup. And I just want to start with this. Obviously, you have Daulton Varsho reinstated to the team. There has to be somebody that is moved. I don't think there's really a conversation to have here. I think Blue Jays media is probably going to be pretty together on this choice here. And it's probably going to be a Nathan Lucas away from the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, I don't think you're going to have too much to say about that either. So I think Daulton Varsho in, Nathan Lucas out, and then that is going to be your roster after what, Alan Roden's done early on with obviously with his age and just the young player presence that you want him to continue to get reps. Miles Straw, you can't send him down. So I think it is a fairly obvious choice with Nathan Lucas. But clearly with the offense, Daulton Varsho can come back. That's not necessarily the saving grace. One thing that we haven't really talked about, that we kind of talked about at the start of the season, but we let it kind of slide because it was going well. Andrus Gimenez, man. And this is the biggest thing. This guy cannot be in the top 4 of this lineup whatsoever. He's been hitting 3. He's been hitting 4. This guy does not have a home run since the 5th game of the season. He had 3 home runs in 5 games, and he still leads the Toronto Blue Jays, does not have a home run in the entire month of April. So clearly something needs to change, and I think a lot of it does start with Andrus Gimenez getting his butt out of that cleanup spot.
Yeah, dude, get him the hell out of there. I'm 100% with you. You know, I was sort of jokingly giving you grief because you slammed them in the well, we both did in the offseason about, you know, his bat not being quite ready. Then he goes out and hits 3 home runs, and you're like, I don't believe in him. And I was
Well,
sort of
and
joking with you, and then he, has
it's
sucked.
not that Andrus Gimenez is a bad baseball player whatsoever. I think the bat is below average, and I think he still can be like good at the bottom of the lineup. It's just there's no world that Andrus Gimenez with just his batting profile should be a cleanup on any baseball team ever, and that's kind of the point that I was making there. Just want to clarify.
No, absolutely, and you're right. So we figured let's get into this a little bit. Let's talk lineup. What does this lineup, honest to God, look like? Well, we're going to talk lefty, righty, sort of everything in the mix, Carter. And I want to start with facing a righty because that's more often than not what you're going to face. How do you want to go about this? You just say yours, I say mine, and then we sort of discuss. I think that's the safest way to go about this.
I do want we can do that, but I do want to preface this by saying it doesn't matter what the lineup was against the Houston Astros. If the offense is going to hit like that, you could have it you could have Santander hitting 9, you could have Lucas hitting 1.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Lucas hitting 1 might have been better actually because he actually launched in that series, but it didn't matter who you rolled out because all of the at-bats equally looked honestly horrific. So it's got to be better no matter what the situation is. These guys do have to get better. But I think we just started off with the top 3. Unless you have anything crazy here, I'm going to throw it over to you. I think just the way I kind of set that up, I don't have anything crazy whatsoever.
It's the exact same as it's been.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Bo, Vladdy, Santander. The biggest thing for the reason I kept this is who do you lead off? I mean, there's nobody. There's no options here whatsoever. You just continue to keep your best 3 hitters at the top of the lineup. I know they haven't been your best 3 hitters necessarily, but I think you have to continue on doing this. I don't love Bichette, the leadoff spot. We kind of talked about this in the last episode. Just a little bit too aggressive to be a leadoff hitter. You want your leadoff hitter to take a little bit more pitches, especially early on in the game. If you get a new pitcher, especially when Ryan Gusto's on the mound and you don't really know a lot about him. First pitch swinging against a guy like that is probably not something you want to do, but it is Bichette. He is one of the best pure hitters on this team, if not in the AL. So 1, 2, 3, very easy for me to decide still.
Yeah, and Bichette, I think he's a 2-hole, to be honest. Yeah. It's just, you don't have anybody else to replace him with, and I think he does a job. Yeah, I guess let's move on because there's really not a whole lot to say on those guys. I'll go the next 3 for me, Carter. Here we'll go 3s. I got Springer, Varsho, and Alan Roden.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I have it a little bit different here as well. I'm still sticking with this Springer. I know he's been one of the best hitters on the team, but I'm still sticking with the Springer. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Leave him in that 5 spot. There's some people have been saying bring Springer back to leadoff spot. I mean, maybe if it continues to go well, but I can't get 2024 out of my head there just yet. So I do have Daulton Varsho being in the cleanup spot. I think they're going to remain with that lefty bat. I think that's why they kind of had Andrus Gimenez there in the first place. Maybe they just loved him as a hitter, but I think Daulton Varsho, at least he's the more prototypical cleanup hitter. Is he the guy that you necessarily want on like a playoff or, a championship roster? Probably not, but it's definitely better than Andrus Gimenez. So I'm going to keep him at that 4 spot. Number 5, Springer. I think, just vice versa. You had Springer at 4-5, kind of the same reasoning. Yeah. And here I went, I do have Alan Roden obviously in this lineup, but I did go with Will Wagner. And I had a quick second where I thought maybe Will Wagner can lead off for this team, but I just haven't seen enough from this guy. Yet. The on base isn't necessarily there. The underlying stats aren't necessarily there right now. Good contact here. Does have the prototypical kind of approach at the plate to become eventually a leadoff hitter. But I had Will Wagner here. I think he's just been hitting, especially, maybe this is recency bias, but I think he has been a better quality at bat than Alan Roden has been. But I have him at number 6 for my lineup. So I'll just go into my next 3 here. I have Andrus Gimenez, then Alejandro Kirk, because I do think they're going to like that Andrus Gimenez to Kirk thing because Andrus Gimenez grounds to do a ton of double plays. Alejandro Kirk, obviously more of a contact hitter as well. It gives a little bit of hit and run there. And obviously, just the way these lists have gone, I have Alan Roden as my number 9 guy. You got to have him, obviously, in the lineup against right-handed hitters. So I think that means you have Andrus Gimenez, Alejandro Kirk, and then Will Wagner to end off your batting order.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I have because for me, it's just the turnover of the lineup. If Will Wagner can be an on-base guy and get there and flip that order over to Bichette and your big 3, that's what I like to see, and that's a personal thing. You like Roden there or Wagner there, and a lot of this is personal preference because I think either way you go about this, again, it's just a little bit right now of who shows up on the day. So, but as of right now, the Springer and Varsho thing, I don't care. Put whoever you feel in 4 and 5. I like the Varsho pick too. I just think you've seen what Springer's been able to do so far. Keep him there. The Allen Roden in that specific spot is hopefully, he can get those doubles and stuff like that, where maybe you get a little bit more of the extra base hits than Will Wagner does. So maybe that's the capability to drive in runs for me, whereas Will Wagner is more of the lineup flipper. But I'm okay with it either way, to be honest with you. So yeah, all good for me.
I think I saw Allen Roden hit in Seattle and then hit in Houston, and they were some of literally the worst at bats I've ever seen. And that might have skewed my list a little bit here, because I do understand where you're coming from. I think Allen Roden's power is probably a little bit better than Will Wagner, but I just trust Will Wagner right now more in that situation to actually drive in runs if there is runners on base. So I'm just going to dive quickly into my left-handed lineup as well. Obviously, the team is going to predominantly face right-handed pitchers. It's just how the major leagues are. So I'm going to kind of rifle through this a little bit here. More so, I'm not even going to go over the first three. I'm just going to list them. Bichette, Vladimir, Santander. You don't switch anything. You haven't switched anything. I don't think you do that. I do have Springer and Varsho flip for this lineup just because it is against left-handed pitching. I have Springer at number 4, Daulton Varsho at number 5. I'll throw it over to you just in case you do have anything different.
No, same.
Oh, nice. So that makes it very easy, obviously. You obviously had Springer number 4 against Reddy, so makes a lot of sense. You're not going to have Varsho in your lineup, lefty-lefty. Just that matchup doesn't make a lot of sense. Go with Springer, go with the hothead.
Yeah, and for me, the only reason I didn't switch them here is that I think in this specific spot, I don't know. Like, it does matter, but at the end of the day, with how George has been swinging the bat, I don't mind it. Otherwise, I sort of agree. I don't mind the flip-flop. So, yeah, all good for me.
Yeah, and then this is where I had a little bit of more debates. We could see a little bit of differences in our list here. I wanted to put Addison Barger here just because of the power profile, but I just haven't seen enough from this guy. I think, again, you have that number 6 here. You have a little bit of power in your lineup, but Addison Barger actually has to have good at-bats, and he actually has to be productive if I'm going to have him at this high in the lineup. So I did go with the Andrus Gimenez, Alejandro Kirk little duo that we did have going there. I do have Addison Barger in my lineup against left-handed pitching because again, I like the power, and I think that just a little bit more upside. The team needs a little bit more upside. I know Barger is a lefty as well, so maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense for the matchup. But I think you have to play Addison Barger if you're going to keep him on the major league team. So I kind of did a little bit of a throw in here, I guess you could say. Very dependent on how these guys are playing at the time. And then I have to throw in my boy Ernie Clement as the number 9. So just throwing it back over to you just in case you have anything different.
The only thing I have different is that I have Miles Straw in. That's it. And that's just because I've been very open about this. I think I see the potential in Addison Barger and maybe what he could be. But again, a guy that just hasn't proven it at all. And Miles Straw, at least you've seen some upside or some capability of doing something so far this year, whereas maybe he can get hot and whatever, hopefully figure something out. Whereas Addison Barger for me is just a nothing burger. So whatever. I hope, if he stays on this team, I agree with you. I think they need to play him. And maybe in this case, they send him back.
Yeah.
Maybe we're talking about roster moves, right?
That could be another option as well. It's tough with Barger and Lucas because I think with Barger, you have to commit to playing this guy. With Nathan Lucas, you can kind of get away with leaving him on the bench more often than a guy like Addison Barger. So it kind of depends on what they want to do. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to these lists, these are in a perfect world. The MLB, obviously, they're playing games almost every single day. So you're going to have different lineup combinations just depending on who needs rest days, who's playing well, who has the hot hand. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into this. So we just kind of did this in a perfect world. Maybe a playoff series somehow starts tomorrow. This is what we would roll out with our lineups. But with the MLB, with how it actually works, you're probably not going to see these exact lineups much, if not at all. So again, it's just the MLB season very fluid. The lineups changing every single day. So this is what we would have in a perfect world if the Toronto Blue Jays end up making the playoffs and they had a playoff series tomorrow. Honestly, don't love it. Don't love it whatsoever. I think Varsho, again, can make this offense better. But going into the season, for me, I think we did need another power bat. I think this is getting exposed a little bit. It's getting exposed a lot more, obviously, than I anticipated, because who would have thought Santander, Vladimir, and Bo would have a combined 3 home runs in 25 games? I do think that is going to change. But something's got to give at this point. Maybe it is that switch in the lineup. Maybe it is, doing something a little crazy to inject some life into the Toronto Blue Jays. But every time I think about that and think about kind of where we're at with the Toronto Blue Jays team, I think, hey, it is 5 games, but those 5 games are just so bad to watch. I can't get over them as we still continue, obviously, into this off day. and then the New York Yankees. It's just not getting easier in Toronto Blue Jays land, but this is a big series. We've got a big series ahead of us, obviously going to Yankee Stadium, going into New York. After coming off a 5-game losing streak, not exactly when you wanted to see the Bronx Bombers, but hey, I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays unfortunately don't get to pick and choose when they have their opponents. So we are going to preview that series, going to get into some pitching matchups, and then obviously our takes on how the Toronto Blue Jays will fare against the Yankees. We will get into that after this short break.
All right, here we go. New York Yankees, Toronto Blue Jays. I'm terrified. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I am terrified. I don't think this team will be as bad as we've seen over the past 5 games, but how can you not be scared of the New York Yankees right now? If you've just watched what we've watched over the past 5 games and you're going in to Yankee Stadium to face Aaron Judge and the boys, you'd be shaking in your boots too. So again, I'm hoping for the absolute best outcome here. I'm praying. I don't like this whatsoever, Carter.
See, we talked about this a little bit on our last episode too. I think I'm a lot more optimistic than you are because right now, like the problem isn't the pitching on this team. Again, Aaron Judge, it doesn't really matter who you're going to throw out there. He is probably going to hit a home run or at least a couple in this series. I am kind of glad that we did dodge the Easton Lucas, probably 4 home runs given up to Aaron Judge because he would have left a changeup over the middle and Aaron Judge might have hit that ball 500 feet. So I think that does bode well a bit for the Blue Jays. But Carlos Carrasco, again, like he's not good, but it is the Blue Jays. So that's where I get a little bit of fear here. And just again, when you're coming off a 5-game losing streak, not exactly you want to be facing the juggernaut Yankees, but their pitching doesn't necessarily scare me. Max Fried is going to be a very tough game. I think it's on that Saturday. But the other 2 matchups, Clark Schmidt has like a 7.5 ERA. He is coming off of an injury. And then Carlos Carrasco. Those are 2 matchups that you should, in theory, take advantage of. I think I'm going to say this here. If they don't take advantage of these 2 pitchers, if they don't score a lot of runs in the series, I am selling the alarm bell. I think there is going to be a massive problem. If there is 9 straight games or 8 games, I guess it would be, and you still don't have offense, especially when one of those pitchers is Carlos Carrasco. Obviously, you can tell from this podcast, I do not think Carlos Carrasco is a good pitcher whatsoever.
No, and I don't think so either. And it comes down to you're 100% right. It comes down to the fact that, hey, at what point, we've been making the excuse of these are good pitchers. You got to tip the hat. These are good pitchers. You got to tip your hat. These aren't as good of pitchers. There's no hat tipping going on. They could go out and have a great day, or it might be that the Blue Jays just can't hit and we're tipping our hat to every pitcher that comes into the league. So I think at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. This team needs to take advantage of these 2 games. And I think realistically, this team needs to take 2 or 3 here. As much as I maybe don't believe that myself, that that's going to happen, I think that's your, okay, we're here to play. We know what we just did. We're here to play. Do I think that that's realistic? No, I'm calling a 1 for 3, to be honest. And this is the first time I've had the Blue Jays losing a series. But I'm taking 1 for 3 but praying, I guess, that it will be a 2 of 3. Carter, the second game, that is the Max Fried game. And that's just good luck to this offense. That's what I will say.
Yeah, I think that one we might be able to do like get ahead of ourselves and maybe give them a little bit of a hat tip early on. Where I'm at with this series is that if you do take 2 out of 3, I think that kind of like it doesn't make up for that series that they just have. But I think it definitely helps the Toronto Blue Jays fan base kind of get their heads back screwed on tight. I think it kind of gets them back grounded and realizes, hey, this is going to be a long season. We're back at 500. You just beat the New York Yankees a game on them. So I think the Friday, I know you don't like the must-win term, but if you lose against Carlos Carrasco, you got Max Fried on the Saturday, like that's 7 in a row. Like I'm almost guaranteeing a loss on that Saturday. I'm hoping it's not going to happen, but Max Fried's just been so good. And this offense has just been so bad that they're going to have a massive flip for anything to change. I think the third game is a complete coin flip. I think that it depends really on how the first 2 games go. If they lose the first 2 games of this series, I just can't imagine that they're going to have any momentum whatsoever to carry it over into that series. So I'm going to say I think they need to beat Carlos Carrasco on that Friday game. And I'm going to go over his last 2 starts. He was with Cleveland last year. This is his last 2 starts against the Toronto Blue Jays. So the first start, he had 5 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, 5 earned runs. Not a very good start from Carrasco. But then the next game, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run. And that was in the same year. That was just a few games later. So you got to take advantage of Carlos Carrasco, and it's going to come down to that Friday game on how this series does pan out. If they win that game, I can see them taking 2 out of 3. They lose that game, they might get swept once again. And I hate saying that, but it's the New York Yankees. You have tougher pitching matchups after that. I'm assuming if you're not going to be Carlos Carrasco, you're probably not hitting again, and that's probably why you lost. So I'm going to say at the end, it's a tough one for me. I'm going to say 1 for 3. I hate it, but I do think they are going to be Carlos Carrasco. But I think we're kind of going to be in this weird spot after this series where you did end up losing 7 of your last 8 games.
Yeah, and you know what, dude? I guess I want to know your thoughts on this. If they get swept here, are you like, where are you? Are you sounding every alarm bell possible? Are you saying that, hey, this team might be fraudulent? And then on the flip side, if they win 2 of 3, are you saying, hey, I think it was a blip? These 5 games were maybe a blip, and we're seeing what the Toronto Blue Jays can do? Or does it really just maybe not depend on a win or a loss, just what kind of Toronto Blue Jays team we see on the field?
That's where I'm at. I think it's the brand of baseball. The New York Yankees are a good team at the end of the day, but you got to see something offensively. If somehow like a starter gets blown up, like the Yankees do have a very good lineup. They do have a very prolific lineup. Obviously, a lot of good players over there offensively. So I think what we need to see the offense bounce back. We need to see literally anything from this offense. If you do end up losing some games due to your pitching, the pitching has been good the entire season. So I think you'd be able to live with that a little bit more. But I think the sky's already kind of falling in Toronto Blue Jays land. So I think if you lose another series, it's only going to be worse on top of that. But I think for me personally, it'll be a lot easier to still be optimistic about this team. Even if they do lose a series, if their offense actually does figure out how to hit a baseball.
Well, here's a positive. You got your 3 best boys on the mound, right? They're going to give you a chance. I think even if you ask them, all 3 of them didn't have their best starts in their last outings. So I think you're going into this one saying, hey, these boys are out to prove something tonight. Now can the offense help them out? I think that's a big point to make here, because yes, we always talk about, we get down and we get upset that the offense isn't doing stuff, and sometimes the pitching doesn't get their praise. Well, here I go. I'm giving them their praise. Show up for this team. Give this team a chance. We're not out of the running for anything yet.
Not even close.
Not even close. So at this stage in the game, last year, Carter, there was a situation where I'm like, well, these guys aren't in it anymore, right? They've lost the mentality because they go out there and try to deliver their best stuff every day and they get no help. It's too early for these pitchers to have that kind of mindset. So I'll be interested to see how they come out in this series against the Yankees and perform. Because are we already seeing, hey, they just lost 5 straight? Is the mentality starting to drop, or are these boys MLB players that can fight through that? And I know Chris Bassitt is a guy that can do that, and he even said at the end of last year he was out of it. Kevin Gausman didn't have the best season. His best season, anyway. So I think the mentality here of this baseball team and how they respond to the series that we just saw, I think that's going to be super important of how this team faces adversity and then comes out on the other side. And I think this is a massive series to not only prove it to themselves, but to the fan base and this organization as well.
Yeah, obviously this is a very big series for the Toronto Blue Jays, but I think it's an even bigger series for the fan base. I think at the end of the day, if the Toronto Blue Jays end up losing this game 2 out of 3, and they do play, or the series 2 out of 3, and they do play a better brand of baseball, I think they can still recover from that. I just don't know if Toronto Blue Jays fans will be able to recover if you end up losing to the New York Yankees, even if it is at Yankee Stadium. So I think the fan base needs this. It might be a must-win for the fan base, but I don't know if it's a must-win series necessarily for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think there is still a way that this team can still be productive, obviously, and still end up having a successful season. Definitely does not feel like that right now, and it definitely will not feel like that if the series against the New York Yankees does not go well. But at the end of the day, like especially when you're running a podcast, when you're a fan of any sports team, why would you be so negative all the time? Even though it's, again, tough to be positive right now, but at least for me, I know you do this as well. We're going to look for a positive a lot of the time, especially when there is still things to be positive about. Last year, 2024, something else. Like, you can't be positive at some point, obviously, when you're seeing just a baseball team be that bad, but we're not there yet. So hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays give us something to cheer about. I think that's what a lot of people obviously need this weekend. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching, all the likes, comments, support, everything that we have gotten recently has been much appreciated. Obviously, if we are going live now, we finally have it accessible where you can go live on YouTube. We're going to be live on Twitter, live on Instagram, all the platforms that you guys access for the podcast. We will be now live, not just on YouTube, on all of those as well. We have noticed that I think it's 76% now
65.
that if you guys are 75,
65, doing better.
65. There we go. I guess I haven't checked in a while, so clearly these are working. But 65% of you guys still are not subscribed. So I appreciate all of the people that have subscribed already. But if you are coming back, tuning into all the podcasts, obviously helps us out a ton, and also keeps any of the content that we do produce at the top of your page. Oh, I feel like I just kind of, was in the rap game a little bit there. But is there anything else that you want to add before we take off for the weekend?
No, I guess everybody enjoy their weekends. Enjoy the baseball it's on. Again, I say this all the time, but even when off days come around, it was sort of like I was sitting at my TV, not really sure what to do. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's because there's no baseball on and I don't have something going on for 2.5 hours of my day. So again, it sucks when it's gone and then it's back and you're sort of back on board, back watching the team. So hope you guys are all doing that as well. And leave us comments, please do, because we want to know as this series goes on. Go back to our videos, tweet at us, message us on Instagram, do whatever you guys want to do, because we like to hear your guys' opinions as well. And I know Carter has already hit the nail on the head with that. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you Monday.